This past week, we had our last couple sessions going into the holiday break with most of our athletes here at Molliteum, and what we focused on was setting their targets for the new year. Now, when most of them started setting their targets, most were saying things like they wanted to score a certain amount of goals or achieve a certain statistic. And truth be told, this isn't the best way to set targets. In fact, it's actually more derailing than it is helping. And the truth is, it's not their fault because they simply haven't been taught how to properly set targets. Most athletes haven't been. So what we did was give them a framework that they can follow to teach them how to properly set their targets so that in the new year, they're actually getting off to a really good start instead of one that holds them back. In this video here today, I'm going to give you the exact framework that we use with all of our athletes from the youth to pro level to help them set their targets for the new year. Hey everyone, Matt Calderoni here, co-founder of Molliteum, where we help athletes discover and reach their true potential by building their resilience. And since 2015, we've helped just over 5,300 athletes from the youth to pro level tap into their extra gear. Now, the reason I started this channel is because I used to be an athlete. I wasn't great at this side of performance, and I don't want you to fall the same way that I did. Before we dive into setting any kind of targets, we actually start with teaching our athletes the philosophy that we have behind setting targets here at Molliteum. And there's two major ones that we follow here. Number one, you have to become your target, meaning that you can't just say, I want to score 5 goals. It's a great vision to have. If you want to actually accomplish scoring 5 goals, though, you as a person need to become the goal scorer, meaning that you need to build two things. Number one, the mindset behind being a goal scorer, and number two, the skills behind being a goal scorer. Otherwise, what you're going to have is a goal that you might have, a target that you might have, and it might be to score 5 goals, but you don't have the habits or the mindset to do so. So what you're actually doing is you're going to just frustrate yourself because you want to accomplish this, but you don't have the right actions in place to do so. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that will allow you to truly accomplish your targets is if you take action on them, if you have the proper action steps to follow in order to get there. Otherwise, it's like saying, hey, I know there's a treasure, but I don't have the map. The actions are the map to get to that treasure. The second philosophy that we have here at Molliteum is that targets are nothing more than a tool of focus. We find that so many athletes put the pressure on themselves when they're trying to accomplish targets, they actually end up just not setting them in general. It's actually a common occurrence that we have here when we start target setting with most athletes. It's how most of them come to us saying, hey, you know what? I actually don't want to do that. I've tried it in the past. I put way too much pressure on myself, and it's not their fault. They probably listen to so many different kinds of coaches that have been trying to do that with them. It throws them off. But truth be told, when you use targets as a tool of focus, it takes all of that pressure out of it. Instead, it's, hey, it's not that I'm trying to put the pressure on myself to accomplish this. Instead, it's, I'm going on this little quest for the next 30 days to accomplish this, and this is where I'm going. Now we can dive into the actual framework behind setting targets. And at Molliteum here, we follow a very simple process. We call it the BOSS framework, B-O-S-S. So like you can see here, there's this nice big funnel on your screen. And the starting point of the funnel is obviously much wider. This is where the B starts, or your big picture targets. This is a vision that's 3+ years away, meaning that you start by just understanding where you want to go. Then you can notice in the funnel, it gets a little bit narrower where we go into the O, which is your 1-year targets. This is where we're going to understand exactly what you want to accomplish and where you want to go in the next 365 days in order to take a step closer towards that vision. And finally, at the bottom where it's the narrowest, we have our short strategy, which is where we set a 30-day target of simply focusing on one skill we need to build to take a step towards that 1-year target, which will take us a step towards that big picture vision. So if you can notice it on the side of it as well, you can see here it says we're going from general to specific. Now, the reason that we follow this framework is because oftentimes whenever we work with athletes, they're setting targets that don't really carry them towards where they want to go. They might set a target where it's like, I got to score more goals, but scoring more goals actually doesn't help them take a step towards where they want to go in their career. Might be a little part of it, but it's not the most effective thing. When you start with your big picture vision in mind of where you want to end up, maybe it's at the pro level, maybe it's an NCAA scholarship, whatever it might be, but you start there and then you work backwards and you can say, hey, well, in order to take a step towards that scholarship or pro level, I need to make sure that this year I'm focused on this. And then when you break it down even further and say to take a step towards that in the next 30 days, I need to build the skill of, let's say, finishing around the net. That's now actually taking a step towards where you want to go. And if you're going to do this and get to that next level like most of our athletes do here, you've got to start with that big picture vision, then break it down to a 1-year, then break it down to your short-term strategy. This will allow you to actually progress towards becoming that target like we talked about and becoming that vision instead of just casting this vision and never really taking steps towards it. So with that being said, let's now dive into this simple framework. So starting off, we're going to start with your big picture vision or your 3+ year target. All you want to do here is understand the person you want to be in the next 3 years, as well as what you want to accomplish. This is where you take the time to imagine the future without any kind of constraints. If there's one major issue that I see most athletes come to us with whenever we start working with them on this kind of stuff, they always forget about where it is they want to go and who they want to be. Think about it for a second. Most pro athletes, all they're focused on from when they're young, and I can attest to this, is that they're focused on becoming a pro, right? Think about that for a second. They want to become a pro. Eventually, when they get to that pro level, though, because of all the noise and the stress and so on, they stop imagining. And when they stop imagining and lose that creativity, they end up losing that ability to perform at peak levels. What you want to do is you want to start with imagining where you want to go. Where do you want to be in the next 3 years? And this was something that actually changed my life because it put me back on the direction of where I wanted to go during a tough period. When I was 12 years old, I got cut from my first rep team. It was one of the hardest things for me. I was told by a coach that I should probably just quit and the sport wasn't for me. But that's the day that I noticed I actually wanted to play and be at that pro level. And I said to myself, well, you know what? It's not going to be this individual that tells me what I'm going to do. I'm going to get very clear on where I want to go. And at 12 years old, I built a vision of, becoming a pro at this age. And I wanted to try and accomplish that by that age. And I wanted to be playing in Italy one day and maybe trying to play with our local, MLS team here in the Major League Soccer. And I accomplished all that. Now, it took me about 5 to 6 years to accomplish, but I had that big picture. I had that North Star of where I wanted to go. So what you want to start with before we get into any kind of target setting for this year, I want you to get very clear on where you want to be in the next 3+ years. Don't just think of, okay, well, in 3 years, I want to be here. It's 3+ years. It's like, what do you really want to accomplish? Like, what's the end of it all? And that's how I started and then worked backwards. So take a second right now and ask yourself that question. Like, if I could create my future of what I want to accomplish in 3+ years with this sport, it might be as simple as I want to just be an NCAA D1 athlete. It might be I want to be a pro athlete, and I want to accomplish this, and I want to win this kind of accolade and that. But this is where you want to dream. Give yourself at least 5 minutes to do this and just start dreaming again, because I'm going to show you how we're going to break that down. Now that you have your big picture vision, you have to get into your 1-year target. This is where we're going to focus on narrowing down that vision now a little bit. And we're going to ask ourselves the simple question of, if I wanted to take a step towards accomplishing this vision, what's the first step I need to take over the course of a year? Now, to make this even simpler, we follow a process here for our 1-year targets called TPMs, targets, purpose, milestones. So what we do is this, we say, okay, the target is simply nothing more than asking yourself, how do I want to take a step towards this vision over the next year? What's the most important thing for me to do right now? The second thing you're going to ask yourself is the P, or your purpose, and you're going to say, well, why is this important right now? And then the third thing you're going to do is fill out the milestones, or what 3 to 5 things I can measure in order to see that I accomplish this target. So for example, when I was about 18 years old and I was ready to go to Italy, I had a target of preparing myself over the next 365 days to get ready for a European trial. That's where I was as a soccer goalkeeper. That was my target for the next year. The reason that this was important is because I was ready to go, and this is my next logical step if I wanted to take a step towards that vision of becoming a pro soccer player. And then the 3 to 5 milestones I measured, I actually had 3 of them. The first one was that I wanted to get at least 6 clean sheets that season, or shutouts. The second one was that I wanted to average less than 2 goals against score on me in each game. And then the third one was that I wanted to have a save ratio of at least 80% plus on the season. So notice that these 3 milestones I can measure in order to get to that 1-year target. But notice that the 1-year target is an actual step towards that next level. So for you, and for most of our athletes, it might be as simple as, hey, this year, I need to make sure that I'm becoming one of the top scorers on my team. Or this year, I need to make sure that I'm becoming known across the league. In fact, we have an athlete in the NHL right now where his target for the year is to make sure that he's able to be a top goal scorer on the team so that he can start attracting more attention around the league from different teams because he's in a contract season. It's that simple though. Notice how it's a step towards there. Notice it's not, okay, I want to accomplish all of my vision right now. It's, how do I take a step towards it? It's just a step. Over the next year, where do you need to be if you want to get there? So the 3 questions that you can see here on the screen you're going to answer are, number 1, how do you want to take a step closer towards your vision over the next year or 365 days? Number 2, why will this help you take a step towards your vision? Make sure to justify it and that it's actually important. And number 3, what 3 to 5 milestones can you accomplish along the way that will indicate you've reached your target? It's really that simple. Put these together, take some time on it. And this is where I'll tell you, it's going to take a little bit more time because now you have to say, well, is it this or that? Take your time on it, get very clear on it, and ask yourself, what's the next logical step in the next 365 days? So for example, here's how I would have set my 1-year target if I wanted to take a step towards that vision and I was about to go to Europe. Like you can see here on the screen, my target in the next year was that I wanted to be one of the top goaltenders in the league. Now, the reason that this is important and the purpose of this is because if I accomplish this, I'll gain the recognition I need from higher ranked teams so I can make them. And the 3 to 5 milestones I was measuring, the 3 I should say, number 1 was having less than 2 goals per game scored on me. Number 2 was having 6 total clean sheets on the year, so 20 in a 20-game season. And number 3 was to have a save ratio of 80+%. Notice how I take that big picture vision and I say, okay, what's the most logical step to take towards it right now? Now, the final part to this all, now that you have your 1-year target, is to get very clear on what you need to do in your short strategy or the next 30 days. What skill do you want to build to take a step towards that 1-year target? This is very simply understanding the idea that as long as you develop skills, you're going to accomplish it. Think, anything that you've done in your sport, anything that any athlete's accomplished, it's just been because of a superior mindset and superior skills. So what we're going to focus on, the logical thing we need to do, we can't sit here and say, well, you know, for example, in my targets, I want to accomplish that 80+ save percentage. It's like, it doesn't really work that way. Instead, I'm going to sit here and say, well, and this is the real example, I need to better my shot stopping. Because right now, my shot stopping it's par, but it's not above average. It's not great. It's not something that will carry me to that next level. So what's the skill you need to build? And that's how you need to treat every 30 days. In fact, that's what we do with our pro athletes. So many times people asked us how we helped the great Lauri Markkanen become an NBA All-Star. And it's like, well, it was very simple. With Lauri, we just had very clear-cut, month by month by month, targets and skills we wanted to develop. It was that simple. And instead, where everybody else was focused on getting a certain amount of buckets and this and this and this, Lauri instead was focused on refining his craft. In fact, many other NBA players talk about this. The great Steph Curry talks about how his one focus is just honing in on his craft to shoot 3 balls and play make. That's how the best are thinking, right? So if you want to do this, you have to understand the 30-day target is nothing more than making sure that you build a skill. To do this, we actually focus on a simple process here called TPMAs. So target, purpose, milestones, and actions, because the actions are where you build habit. And as an athlete, we actually focus on 3 areas to build milestones in or to accomplish milestones in, which is number 1, the skill to build, of course. Number 2, your strength, because there is going to be a component to your strength side. And number 3, your conditioning, or how you need to build that conditioning out if you're going to accomplish that target. Now, all of these milestones are going to have simple weekly actions that you need to take that might happen day by day or week by week in order to accomplish that target. So to make this very simple for you, I'm going to put it up on the screen, I'm going to walk you through it, and I'm going to give you the example that I used when I was trying to take a step toward building that shot-stopping target when I was about to go play pro in Europe. So let's start with the target. To keep it simple, my target for this month, the first month that I was in the season, was to better my shot stopping. That's the only thing I was focused on. And the reason that this was important was because in the league that I was playing in, it was a higher level league, it was more challenging, and I needed to master this basic first if I wanted to do anything great across the league. Now, this is where you can see I break it up into 3 areas of milestones I want to accomplish. So I have strength, conditioning, and skills. So for my strength, the milestone I wanted to accomplish there was simply just maintaining the strength I built in the off season. And the daily and weekly actions I would commit to was to go in the gym for 3 days a week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It's that simple. Now for the conditioning, the milestone that I wanted to accomplish there was to get better with it in my up and down conditioning. Because I was a goalkeeper, I was dropping on the ground a lot and getting up. I had to build that kind of conditioning back. Now to take action on this, I was only committed to training it 2 times per week in my training sessions. And the third thing was a skill. The milestone I wanted to accomplish is actually going to be pretty much the exact same thing as my target, which is to better my shot stopping ability from all angles. And all I would do for this in my daily and weekly actions is I would do mental reps 5 days a week, practice it 5 times per week, and watch film on it 2 times per week. So notice all I'm doing is taking that target and breaking it down and saying, okay, there's 3 components to this target. To my shot stopping, there's 3 components. Number 1, there's a strength component. Just need to maintain it. Number 2, there's a conditioning component. I need to get better with my up and downs. Number 3, there's an actual skill component, and I need to build my shot stopping from all angles. Now here's the trick to this. The target and the milestones are simply like a filtering process. All they're going to do is say, hey, you need to focus on shot stopping this month. Specifically, you need to focus on these couple things, but where you need to place all your focus is just commit to those daily actions. That's it. That's how simple this is. So for example, if we bring it back up here on the screen, you can see my daily actions. All I'm going to focus on is going to the gym on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. All I'm going to focus on is training my up and down conditioning 2 times per week. And all I'm going to focus on is doing my mental reps 5 times a week, practicing my skills 5 times a week, and watching film on this skill 2 times a week. That's all I need to worry about. You actually don't even need to worry about, am I going to build my shot stopping? Am I going to do this, this, this? It's like we always focus on when it comes to people who are trying to score goals. Whenever we have an athlete who comes to us to try to score more goals, we get them so lost in the process. This is the real way to get lost in the process and not just talk about it. So for example, if we had, let's say, an NHL player who came to us and said, I need to score more. It's like, okay, great. And we break it down. We'll notice a lot of the times they just need to go into the gym about twice a week because they're in the middle of the season. They need to commit to doing at least 2 extra days of conditioning. And then they need to commit to the same process we follow here, which is their mental reps, their physical practice, and watching film. So they're going to hyper obsess over just the actions and not the target itself, because they know if they do these actions, it will get them there. Does that make sense? So with you, all you need to do is break it down the same way here. And to do that, you're just going to answer these questions. So like you can see here on the screen, number 1, what do you want to build over the next 30 days in order to take a step towards your 1-year target? Number 2, why is this important to accomplish right now? Number 3, what milestones must you build in the next 30 days across your strength, conditioning, and skills? Pick one for each. And number 4, what daily actions must you follow for each of them in order to get there? Do not set more than 3. So it's that simple. Now for the mental reps and doing the work and all that I mentioned, simply click on this video here to follow it, because it's an actual framework and process that we've given. There's a downloadable audio track for your mental reps that you can use and so on. But all we're doing with the skill is building certainty and confidence behind it. And that video will give you everything that you need in order to do so. And there you have it. So let's recap it. So notice I started with this big picture vision of me becoming a pro athlete. Then I broke it down even further to say, hey, in order to take a step towards that in the next year, I need to be one of the top goalkeepers in my league. And then to break that down even further, and I said, in the next 30 days, what do I want to accomplish? I said, I just want to make sure I'm bettering my shot stopping, because that will help me become one of the better goalkeepers in the league. It's really that simple. Now to reflect on this, because it's great to set targets, but you need to make sure you see these every single day. So all you're going to do is this. With your 1-year target, you're going to review this once a month. With your actual 30-day targets, you're going to review it once a week. I suggest doing it on a Sunday. That way you can take the time, slow down, look at what you got to do, but do it on your off day, review that target, and get ready for the next week again. Remember, all you need to commit to are the actions to follow. Don't worry about anything else. But once you break it down, I know it's a little tedious, but this will help you get very clear, filter out all the noise, and actually take steps towards building that target. Now you want to reset these 30-day targets, of course, every 30 days, and just make sure that you're actually updating them and sticking to them. It's tedious, but I'm telling you, this is the focus that the best athletes in the world have that we work with. This is the focus. This is why our clients get the results they do, is because they're super focused on what they need to do, and they're not worried about all that noise. So if you got some value from this video or it helped you, please like, subscribe, click the notification bell, leave a comment down below. It helps us grow. I'm also going to link here a couple playlists that you can follow so you can continue to build your mental game outside of this video and help with this target setting side. We cover everything to do with building mental toughness or resilience for athletes. And if you do want to work with us here at Molliteum, there's a link down below where you can apply to work with us one-on-one. It is a first come, first serve basis, and it is an application basis. We only take on 2 athletes per week. And if you are selected, we do make sure to set you up with your own personal Molliteum coach so that you can build a blueprint of your mental toughness and you don't have to worry about that anymore or watching any of these videos. Now, if you want, you can also train your resilience on your own. There's a link to the Molliteum Pocket Coach down below. Many of our athletes get fantastic results with that. And finally, if you don't want any of that and you just want to make sure you keep getting free resilience tips, simply sign up for the Molliteum Insider down below. It has everything there where we give you weekly resilience tips and skills and tricks, especially if you want to build that mental toughness and do so within your own time frame. With that being said, stay resilient and we'll see you in the next one. Happy New Year.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the full podcast episode, click right here.